All right, the Krug Show back with you on a Saturday. Hope everybody's having a great day. We're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. Paulie Mack is in the house. Let's go. All right, welcome to the Krug Show. Saturday morning, 9/11 West Coast, 11 minutes afternoon on the East Coast. Welcome to the Krug Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. The best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue you're going to have here in Northern California. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California on the Monterey Peninsula. Call my friend Anthony Catania. He's at 831-521-5264. And this live stream is also sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krug Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. Download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners to get your first deposit matched up to $200. Everyone who does is automatically entered to win the free Ricky Pearsall signed 14 red Niner jersey. We'll give it away on Super Bowl Sunday in the post-game show. And thanks to Better for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. Paulie, good to see you, man. How are you?
Krugs, I miss you, buddy. I know we used to do our weekly Wednesday night hits for like the entire football season. Now we're doing the Paulie Mack Particle Show on Wednesday night, too. It's kind of like Paulie Mack Particles at 8. Then you got Larry Kruger stepping in at 9 o'clock for his Wednesday night show. So, Larry, to answer your question, dude, I've been good. I've been super busy, super excited about the new show, Paulie Mack's Particles. Please do subscribe, Larry. See, I'm getting all the jargon down now. Just subscribe at Paulie Mack's Particles. We would love to see you in the community. And that's what I'm doing right now, Larry. I'm like in the early stages. I'm a month in, and I feel like I'm just building my show, building my scene, and just bringing people into the community. You know, it's like a long, steady climb.
You guys having some fun with it for sure?
Oh, yeah, dude. We're having a lot of fun with it. And it like just so liberating, too, without the the rules that we were used to growing up and doing traditional radio. Now it's just say whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want. And it's very refreshing, very liberating. So, yeah, we're having a great time. How you been, dude? How's the Krug Show going?
Oh, dude, it's been crazy. It's been great. You know, just we're getting into the off season now. And I'm starting to, get into the All-Star games, and then we'll have the combine. It's the off season is more challenging, obviously, to do, regular Niner shows, but it's not as challenging as I thought it would be. I thought it would be even more challenging. But there's always something to talk about. I mean, it just seems like there's always something to talk about in 49er land. And why don't we start right there? Because some of the latest stuff has to do with Tim Kawakami breaking some stories this week. One was that, Brock Purdy, there's some revelations on, how that thing could go contractually for the 49ers and Brock Purdy. And it's interesting stuff. Tim basically came out with a story this week saying that he's heard from a plugged-in NFL source this week that the Niners and Purdy's camp are, don't expect fireworks on the way to an eventual deal. And that's good news. He said he's also heard that the framework might be a little different than some other recent deals, that it may be a shorter-term deal. It may be a lesser guarantee.
Right.
We're hearing rumors of all kinds of things. And maybe it's going to be a Daniel Jones-type contract. But then he finishes up by saying it may take some time, which, personally, I don't know how you feel about it, but I personally think that their deadline to get this done with Brock should be March 12th, because that's the beginning of free agency. And if you're going to have Brock there, great. But if you're not going to have Brock there, you're going to want to make sure that you explore free agent options.
Yeah.
And then even if Brock's going to be there, you're going to want to improve this football team. And I know they cleared off $50 million of cap room. A lot of that's earmarked for Brock's contract, but I'm sure they'd like to sign a free agent or two. So I think getting, your biggest contract solidified before you hit free agency officially, I think is in their best interest. So, Paulie, I know, people are saying, oh, well, Season doesn't start till September.
Yeah.
I know, and I was thinking about what is the deadline. And at first I was thinking, well, it's got to be the draft. But now, which would be April. But now I'm thinking, you know what? It's actually probably got to be in the next couple weeks, because if you don't get it done before free agency, then how do you go sign a free agent? If you don't know what you're paying your quarterback.
Yeah, no,
or even who the quarterback is. Like there was some talk this week about T. Higgins, rumors about T. Higgins, the Niners. Mike Lombardi, was at the Senior Bowl, and he said some of the buzz at the Senior Bowl is that the 49ers may be a sleeper team in the T. Higgins free agent sweepstakes when he hits free agency, along with the Patriots, Commanders, Texans, and Chargers, who are also going to show interest in T. Higgins. They say the Niners may be the sleeper. Well, if you're T. Higgins and you're trying to decide, do I go to the Chargers? Do I go to the Texans? Do I go to the Commanders? And you want to come to the Niners, well, you got to make sure that they got the quarterback. Right. And right now they don't have him signed. So, I mean, to me, it's like it's not crucial, but I think it would be much preferred if they could get the deal done with Brock before free agency.
I agree 1,000,000% on that. And just thinking about the last couple of seasons, and in particular, the last couple of off seasons going into camp. I mean, the Niners have contended with these big name guys holding out, whether it was Deebo Samuel a couple of years ago, it was Trent Williams last year, it was Brandon Ayuk last year. And in each one of those cases, I think that they, for example, look at Brandon Ayuk. When he finally did get on the field, he was not the Brandon Ayuk we were expecting to see, the Brandon Ayuk we had seen perform last year. So I'd like to have an off season and heading into camp with everything kind of straightened out this year. No drama, no more holdouts, no more wondering how this thing is going to play out, because they've already had that kind of toxic environment starts to build. And, Deebo scrubbing the Niners from social media, all that kind of. No, I'm not suggesting Brock is going to do that. I seriously doubt he would ever take to social media and express his, private feelings regarding the negotiation. But yeah, man, let's get this thing taken care of, like at the deadline or before. That way it's one less thing to worry about. And there's going to be so much going on. Like you said, I mean, Saul is back. Boyer comes in. I read this week also, Larry, I'd like to talk about this a little bit, that Fred Warner is open to restructuring his deal to accommodate, the potential re-signing of Greenlaw, which is a whole other talking point too. But I'd just like to see Fred with that team mentality. It was something Jerry Rice did back in the day when they signed Dion. You have to get creative and inventive with the salary cap to accommodate, big name guys like that. So good to see Fred Warner is willing to do that. But back to your original point. Yeah, dude, lock up Brock. It's one less thing to worry about. He's obviously the quarterback. He's Shanahan's guy. Let's get this thing ironed out with zero drama if possible.
Right. I mean, I think that's probably the thought. Now, Dan Graziano from ESPN.com predicts a 4-year, $196 million deal for Purdy with $112 million guaranteed.
Yeah.
And that would give him a $49 million average annual value, and that would rank 10th among quarterbacks. His $112 million in guarantees would be the 8th most. To me, that sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty good. Here's my thing, Paulie. I'm not as concerned about the exact dollar figure and the exact guarantee and the exact numbers on this thing, as long as they're reasonable. My interest is more in the timing, because I've never seen a team win a Super Bowl that quarterback held out, and I've never seen a team win the Super Bowl whose quarterback wasn't like fully there at the beginning of camp.
That's right.
So the 49ers are absolutely in a go mode this year. They just pissed away a year where they were the Super Bowl favorites and they won 6 games and missed the playoffs.
Yep.
So let's just say this. I mean, next year, the Niners are going to be all in. And I would say seemingly somewhat desperate to turn this thing around and jump back into the mix. And the question is, they have to, I mean, not the question, but the issue is they have to have Brock Purdy signed, sealed, and delivered. Now, the question I would have is, I think most people assumed that the Niners would not be big players in free agency. because of the Purdy deal and all the needs that they have. But the rumor this week about T. Higgins, now there was an awful lot of people kind of poo-pooing it, and I do understand why, because he's a big name guy, and it seems like overkill, right? Oh, it's like you've got Ayuk, you just paid him, you got Debo, you paid him, you have Pearsall, you have all these guys,
right?
But then when you look at this wide receiver core closer, Ayuk suffered a very serious injury. I would say you can't expect him back before probably mid to late October, and I don't know what he's going to be. I mean, I think there's a very good chance that he is a diminished player from what we expect to see from Brandon Ayuk. That was a major injury. You don't just come back with no repercussions.
Yeah.
And then Debo, Debo, my buddy's a realtor. He called me this week and he's like, dude, Debo put his Morgan Hill house on the market.
Did he? Okay.
And so, Debo very easily could be traded.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of incentive to cut him, but I could see them potentially trading Debo.
I could too. Man.
So I mean, Pearsall has a very limited, success deal. Only the last couple games was he pretty good. Cowing was still very much a question mark. Chris Conley's a free agent.
Juwan
Jennings is there. He's solid, but I mean, you need more. And I looked at the draft, and the draft does not have. This is not a good year for wide receivers.
Yeah.
It's a great year for running backs. It's a great year for tight ends. It's a great, incredible year for defensive tackles. It's a totally lousy year for quarterbacks, and it's a really bad year for wide receivers. So, I mean, just to put it in perspective, Teteroa McMillan from Arizona is the best wide receiver in the draft. He was Jacob Cowing's teammate there at Arizona last year. 2 years ago. He's an incredible talent, right? But he's probably going to go in the top 5. And then there's Luther Burden from Missouri, and he's probably going in the top 10. But so then there's a big drop-off. And none of those guys, Egbuka, Isaiah Bond, Trey Harris, I don't think any of those guys could go 11th overall. And then you look at the depth, and the depth just isn't there. There's a couple of players that are interesting at wide receiver, but this is not your vintage wide receiver draft. The best wide receiver at the Senior Bowl this week was Tez Johnson from Oregon, but he's 155 pounds.
Yeah,
he's
no, that's not
5'9",
going to work.
155.
Yeah.
That's so small.
Yeah.
So, it's not a great wide receiver draft. That's for sure. And so, you know what? At first blush, I'm like, no, T. Higgins doesn't fit. But it makes perfect sense. One, if you're going to ask Brock Purdy to get, to hammer out a favorable deal, if I'm Brock Purdy, the only way I want to take any less money is if you're going to turn around and either spend that money on an offensive lineman or a wide receiver that can help make me better. If you have T. Higgins, if you're Brock Purdy, I think, Brock Purdy had to do a lot this year. Why? Because Debo wasn't Debo. Ayuk wasn't there. CMC wasn't there. His weapons dried up, and suddenly he had to hold it more, run with it more, and there was a lot more pressure on him, and we saw the results. He kind of backslid. But you know what? It's like if you could say, kind of like they added Hargrave, if you could add a T. Higgins, I mean, it's not a great wide receiver draft. It's not a great wide receiver free agent market outside of Diggs and Higgins. So I don't know if there's anything to it or not, but I would say this. If I'm the 49ers, I like the idea of T. Higgins. Why? Because I think they could go, Paulie, sign Purdy, improve their offensive line, improve their defensive line, improve their linebacking core, have a very, very good offseason, and then get to training camp and be like, we don't have enough wide receivers because, we traded Debo and Ayuk's not going to be ready till midseason. And so week 1, we're going to put JJ and Pearsall out there. And if anybody has a hamstring injury, now we just have, just the worst wide receiving core of all time out there. So I don't want to see their whole season derailed because of a lack of wide receivers. And yet I don't want to see them. I don't want to see them necessarily draft a wide receiver in the first round again. They did that last year. So, it's one of those things where how the pieces come together are going to be really, really interesting. And I would say, even though T. Higgins seems like a wild stab, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, sign Drew Dahlman," who's a pretty good center. But you have other centers. You have Nick Sakel, you have Drake Nugent, you have Brendel. It's a pretty good draft for centers. But it's not a very good draft for receivers. So if they could get T. Higgins, I'm all about T. Higgins. What do you think?
Okay. Well, I want to ask you, it's interesting. It's an interesting conversation because I think in my mind, in a way, the jury is still out on Pearsall. Like, I'm not automatically going to usher him into,
Starter status.
Yeah, exactly. Because I just haven't seen enough. Like, there are flashes, there's potential there, but I'm not quite sure yet that he's ready for that kind of commitment or that kind of responsibility. So I would go back to what you said about this draft not being good for wide receivers, but potentially having a lot of good running backs because Krugs, you mentioned Brandon Ayuk. Like, what is he going to look like next year when he's back on the field? I think it's pretty safe to assume he's not going to be the same guy that we've seen in the past. Those injuries are really difficult to get all your stops and starts and mobility back. But let's talk about the running backs in the draft because the same question in my mind, Larry, applies to CMC. Like, I don't know what we should expect from Christian McCaffrey at this point. Like, when he comes back, what kind of version of Christian McCaffrey is he going to be? Is he going to be the 2023, NFL Offensive Player of the Year Christian McCaffrey, or the Christian McCaffrey that had a hard time staying on the field last year? So is that something you think they should consider also? Not only wide receiver, but maybe because what's left? I mean, I don't know. Eli Mitchell, I don't know what's left there or what his health status is.
He's a free agent, I think.
So there you go. So this is perhaps something else they're going to need to address is running back. Because if CMC can't go, suddenly there's like a potential void at that position too.
Yeah. The latest on CMC was that he was saying that he was the tendonitis in both Achilles, that he has gotten beyond that. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to make of that, really. Elijah Mitchell's a free agent. Patrick Taylor's a free agent. They have McCaffrey. They have Jordan Mason. He's a restricted free agent, but he can't go anywhere. They have Garendo. They have Juszczyk. And they still have Izzy Abanaconda. So, I mean, that's what they have at running back. The good news is that this is an epic draft for running backs.
Do you expect them to make a move at that position? Do you think they'll grab one of these guys?
Oh, yeah. I definitely think they're going to. First of all, this is one of the greatest running back drafts I can ever remember. I'm going to share the screen on this, and you can see the big board here for the running backs. It's pretty amazing. Here it is. So this is a great website, by the way. This website's called DraftTech, TEK.com. And basically they have this thing where you can go and they will give you the rankings by position of all the best players in the draft, right? And then what it gives you is the rankings. And then over here, it has the bio. Nice. And you can click on anybody's bio, and then it takes you right to the bio of their, like the Boise State bio for Ashton Gianti. And so now you're on the Boise State bio and you're reading his bio. So it's a really great site.
Nice.
Wait a second. Let me go back. So I just wanted to show you this screen, though, because the running back draft this year is freaking amazing. Ashton Gianti from Boise State averaged like 12 yards a carry. He's a tremendous back. But Omarion Hampton from North Carolina, awesome back. Cam Scatabo is a Niner fan. He's actually a Sacramento kid, I believe. Played at ASU, and
that kid was great. Like, I mean, dude, that bowl game he played in, he took that game over single-handedly. And his old man up in the crowd, dude, I love his old man too. To both of them. I mean, that kid, he won me over.
He's the real deal.
Yeah.
He's 5'11", 215, but he's kind of a Juszczyk type. If they're looking to move on from Juszczyk, Scatabo might not be bad. But I mean, that's just the beginning. Caleb Johnson from Iowa is amazing. These two guys from Ohio State, Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. These guys are really, really good running backs. I mean, both those guys are, I think, Pro Bowl running backs in the NFL. Ollie Gordon from Oak State's a stud. Dylan Sampson from Tennessee, our friend Doug Hendrickson, the sports agent. He's representing Dylan. He's a hell of a back. R.J. Harvey is a good back. Devin Neal from Kansas. DJ Giddens. I had Matt Miller on from the ESPN's draft guy guru. He likes DJ Giddens quite a bit from K-State. Jarquez Hunter from Auburn's a hell of a back. And it's even more. I mean, Raheem Sanders from South Carolina is a tremendous running back. Taj Brooks was at the Shrine game. He's 5'9", 230. And then there's even more. Damian Martinez from Miami's a stud. Brashard Smith from SMU is a monster.
Nice.
Bashul Tootin from Vatex back. This kid from Delaware, Marcus Yarns, is kind of like a Raheem Mostert. He's 5'10", 190 pounds, but he's like got 4.3 speed. He is an amazing player. I mean, and there's more. This kid down here, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, was the MVP of the Shrine game Thursday night. Really fast running back. And there's even more. Mario Anderson from Memphis is a star. Bowling ball back, but he was the MVP of the bowl game.
Nice.
Montrell Johnson from Florida is amazing. Ulysses Bentley from Ole Miss is really good. Quentin Cooley from Liberty is 5'7", 220 and breaks tackles. Jalen White from Georgia Southern's an incredible athlete. There's just so many great running backs in this draft that absolutely, this is the draft where you get yourself like maybe two running backs. Maybe you get one in the draft and one after the draft.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is definitely, a draft where you can get that running back. But let's go back to Ayuk for a second because we were talking about Ayuk and just looking at his situation. I don't know. I mean, what can you expect, for him to do this year? I mean, that's
the thing. Yeah, it's hard to tell.
I don't know what you can expect out of him.
Right. Right.
I would love to think. So he signed his 4-year, $120 million extension August 29th. October 20th, he took a hit to the knee in the Chiefs game and tore the ACL, the MCL, and the meniscus.
Ugh.
And so nobody knows how good he's going to look when he gets back. I mean, just by comparison to other guys, Paulie, in 2023, Hufanga tore his ACL November 19th.
Okay.
He missed the entire offseason training program and made his debut week 3 the next year against the Rams. But he didn't tear his MCL or his meniscus, and he was able to come back in 10 months.
Yeah.
So Ayuk's comeback, I think, by just logic, would tell you it's going to take longer, considering his knee damage was more brutal than Hufanga's. So I would say there's no doubt Ayuk is going to miss OTAs.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to miss minicamp. He's going to miss training camp. And he's going to try to come back at some point in the middle of the season. And I do expect him to play in 2025. But it's even last year. I don't know what you thought, but I thought he was a far cry last year from the year before.
Just a shadow. He was a shadow of his.
He was incredible
self.
2 years ago.
Incredible.
2 years ago, awesome.
He was
last year. Not that great.
No question. And I thought 2 years ago, Brandon Ayuk, he kind of emerged as the go-to guy. He was every bit qualified to be the number one receiver on the team. Last year, no, he was not the same guy. And I do attribute a lot of that to his holdout. He missed camp. He missed all the workouts. And you got to be in the rhythm of camp and you got to be in the rhythm with your teammates. And he certainly was not. And then the injury comes. Now, if they do get rid of Deebo Samuel, if Brandon Ayuk is not the same player, which is an extremely likely scenario, this goes back to your point about they're going to have to address the wide receiver position. Because again, like I'm not sold on Pearsall. With all due respect, it's a great story and I want him to succeed, but I can't just assume.
It's not personal or anything.
No,
we all love. Yeah, I mean, it's a great story. I mean,
exactly.
It's just we haven't seen it with any consistency. But yeah, I mean, that's the question. I mean, it's like I know Ayuk's coming back in 2025.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was a shell of himself last year, and I would say it's very much up in the air whether or not he regains that pre-injury form. And even if he does, what are the odds that he does that in 2025?
Not very likely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, if Debo looked diminished this year, and I think they may wind up trading him. But if they traded Debo and Ayuk's not ready, and they're absolutely, they get to week 1 and they're like, last year we won 6 games. We're in our go window. Do you really think they're going to be in their go window with Ricky Pearsall and Juwan Jennings?
No, exactly.
No way.
Exactly. I mean, even if you increase the workload for George Kittle and you make him more of a featured receiver, which is always a good move because when he's involved with the ball in his hands, good things happen. But he's got too many blocking responsibilities. So, yes, they have to get somebody at that position that can, emerge as some kind of number one, go-to option for Brock Purdy. Because without that, they're going to have a lot of problems. Now, Krugs, I feel like there's something at the center of all this that I want to ask you, which is, and you hinted at this earlier in the show today. Do you feel like next season, this 2025 season, is this the last kind of legitimate shot that Kyle has to win a Super Bowl with this group of personnel? Like, the window is closing. Let's be honest. I mean, this core group has been around for a while together now. Juszczyk, Kittle, Fred Warner, all these guys, Brock Purdy. But I feel like age moves in, injuries move in, free agency moves in. It's part of life in the NFL. So is the window, is this the last chance in your mind before they have to kind of start a rebuilding process of sorts?
It could be if they can't keep adding to their mix.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like it's all about, who you bring into the building every year. I mean, every team in the NFL is going to have 15 to 30 new players almost every year. They're either between draft choices and free agents, and there's going to be some turnover on your roster. It's just natural. Every team has it. Yeah. So to me, it's just about who do you keep adding good players. I mean, if they don't add, if they only add just complementary type players, then their window is closing because their great players are getting older. But if they can continue to add great players, then I don't think the window is closing because Brock's young and Shanahan's young, and I think that's really, what's your Super Bowl window tied to? It's usually your head coach and your quarterback. So
right.
If as long as Purdy, stays healthy and Shanahan is doing his thing, I think the window remains open, but they have to keep drafting good players. They got to keep drafting. You got to keep adding to your mix. You can't just, you can't just be like, well, our great players were Kittle and McCaffrey and Ayuk and Debo, and now we don't have them, so we're just filling in with lesser guys. Yeah, if you continue to fill in with lesser guys, you're going to be lesser. But if you can draft some guys, if you can sign some guys, I mean, it's a really good draft. I'm encouraged by what I've seen. It's a really it's an intriguing offseason for the 49ers.
Krugs, I mean, if the Niners
I think it's still open.
Yeah, and if the Niners continue to add with lesser guys, I would start to get confused. I would say, wait a sec, who is this? The San Francisco Giants? Oh, was that inappropriate? I'm sorry, you guys. So he's taking a random shot at the Giants in their offseason, Krugs. I went out of my way to take a swipe at the Giants because Buster Posey's comment last week, no, I think I like the roster we have. I'm like, oh no, here we go again, man. But you were talking about adding lesser players. I feel
we can get to that at some point.
Yeah,
too.
when was the last time the Giants had any kind of offseason? Exactly. But back, and what about Greenlaw, Krugs? Do you expect Greenlaw back? And if so, what do you think physically he has, or what kind of version of him do you think we'll see?
Well, I mean, that's the question. He's only played 34 snaps this year.
I know.
And he's very violent player, but I do get the picture that Fred maybe will renegotiate his deal to try to create some cap room so they can bring Dre back, which would be an awesome thing. I mean, I think Greenlaw, when given a full year to get healthy, will be back to somewhat normal. I mean, we'll see. He's had the Achilles injury. But I just think that his body's been through a lot for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It would be nice if they could get some greater depth at linebackers so that, they weren't in this mode to have to put injured players on the field. Fred, that's one of the rumors coming out this week. I'll share the screen on this.
Yeah.
This is from Niners Nation.
Is this a Fred Warner rumor?
No, this was let's see if I can find this. A Jets free agent that's been linked to the Niners. So
yeah.
Here, I'll share the screen. This is Kyle Posey on Niners Nation.
Okay,
wrote this story today this week. Excuse me. And basically he's talking about Jamie Sherwood, who's a linebacker for the Jets. And ESPN ranks him as the 37th ranked free agent. He's only 25 years old. He says the tape is trending up on Jamie Sherwood after he posted 154 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 3 pass breakups with the Jets. He can play downhill with speed. He's a good linebacker. Anyway, Jeremy Fowler from ESPN says the Falcons and the Niners are the two teams that may go after Jamie Sherwood. And obviously Sherwood played for Robert Saleh, who runs the Niners defense. He's an incredible linebacker. He's a converted safety who's 6'2", about 216 pounds. He's not the biggest guy, but he had 18 tackles against Miami. He had 17 against Arizona. He's kind of a tackling machine. He's represented by Drew Rosenhaus, who has a good relationship with the Niners because he had Frank Gore all those years. So I don't know. I mean, if you could have Greenlaw and Sherwood and Warner, and maybe get a linebacker or two in the draft, I just would like to see them get greater depth there. So that
I feel you.
If Greenlaw gets hurt in the middle of the year, they can just sit him out instead of forcing him to play. You know, he's taken one for the team a lot because
who, Fred?
Yeah, I mean, Greenlaw has.
Greenlaw.
He's played a lot, even when he's hurt, because they need him.
Yeah. Well, Fred, too. Fred played on a broken ankle this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We didn't know. Yeah, and you're right. It would be better. It would be nice to have more depth, especially at that position on their defense. Yeah.
Yeah, they need more linebackers if in a better linebacker depth, and they need to, only put Dre out there if he's healthy. Daryl Azian says, "Do you drink coffee, Larry? You should. Keeps you focused on this kind of thing."
Hey, cheers!
I've never had a cup of coffee.
Whoa! Oh, dude!
In my entire life.
I'm stunned to hear this. Larry's a full-grown adult male in the modern world. I'm
a coffee virgin.
Okay, now are you one of these soda guys where you'll drink like a Diet Pepsi instead for a caffeine hit, or not?
I will. I don't like Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi. I like regular Coke, but and even that I don't. I try to not drink that as much either because of the sugar. But everyone's a lot of water. I just don't. I don't like coffee. I don't like the taste of coffee.
Hey,
I don't like. I didn't like my teacher's breath when they would drink coffee,
I would
have to smell their breath.
That's good.
Yes. I don't like coffee breath. I don't like coffee. I don't I don't like coffee ice cream.
Fine. How about coffee cake? Can I interest you in a piece of coffee cake? Yes.
I love coffee cake.
Okay. I got you. I
love coffee cake, but there's nothing coffee in coffee cake. It's
That's
like
true.
a contrast. It's a contrast to coffee.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know you as a morning show guy for years. You guys are. I mean, Murph is the most caffeinated on air host I think I've ever heard in my life. I mean, he is just so caffeinated.
He's revving at a high level.
He is revving. I mean, he is revving. There's no pause. There's no, it's
as Bobby Sala would say, all gas, no brakes.
I mean, he is fully caffeinated. I never got into it, and I think there's positives and negatives to coffee. I mean, I've read some different health journals on coffee and this and that. There are things that it does for you that are good.
Right.
There are things that are bad, that are very addictive. Some people drink it all day.
I know people like that. Yes. Yeah.
I hate to say it. Some people who just have terrible weight problems, they're drinking these ice mochas with all these creams and syrups and it's just like, dude, you're having a freaking, you're having like a chocolate sundae every single day. I mean,
with a straw. Yeah, it's like
with a straw.
It's got 87 grams of fat. You're right.
I mean, some of the biggest people I've seen on the street are drinking iced coffees.
Dude, you're all over it. You're all over it.
I mean, seriously, if I want, better D-line play this year, I may want to go for some of these people that are powering down the iced coffees because they're two gappers. They're true. If you're drinking the iced coffee, you're a two gapper. Those men and women could play in like a 3-4. They're not 4-3 penetrators. They're not one gap penetrators. They're two gappers. They're they're extra wide. They're wide backs. They're wide.
Hilarious.
Backs.
Hey, Krug, speaking, I love this iced coffee ripping. You're so right, dude. There's some big boys and girls out on the street.
Big people with the iced coffee.
And they all have those industrial sized cups of like the whipped cream and the latte and the cinnamon twist. It's like you're eating like a liquefied dessert right there, kid. But
I mean, come on, dude.
All the power to you. Hey,
Krug, who are we fooling with that, by the way?
Exactly.
I'm having a coffee. No, you're not. You're going to Fenton's and you're having a black and tan.
Dude,
you're having an ice cream. It's a gigantic ice cream party. You might as well be getting your coffee at Farrell's.
You're having the equivalent.
Remember Farrell's?
Of course. Oh, Farrell's rules, man. Yeah, no, you're not having coffee. You're having the equivalent of 6 melted down cinnamon buns, bro. And it's
exactly.
Not
you just took over the Cinnabon in the airport.
Right.
And mix in a little coffee with my massive doses of cream, sugar, syrup, chocolate.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Well, I gotta have my
town
coffee.
On those.
I'm a big coffee fan. I'm an enthusiast. I love it in the morning. I don't drink it all day, but I definitely love it in the morning. Now, Krugs, I got to make sure I get your take on the Super Bowl too before we part ways today because we haven't talked. Are you on board with the whole? I hate to use the word narrative, but it's probably the most appropriate word. The whole narrative about the Chiefs and the refs. I've seen a lot of curious calls with this Chiefs team along the way. It's hard not to acknowledge that part of the story, but I know you don't like to go there very often, and I like that about your show, Larry. But do you?
Well, as far as what, like conspiracies or that kind of thing?
Yeah. It's conspiracies. It's scripted. The refs are in on it. Like, what's your view of that whole story that people have been talking about? Honestly, since the Chiefs-Texans game, when there was some questionable roughing the quarterback calls, and now it's one of the biggest talking points going into the Super Bowl. But where's Kruger on that story?
Well, it's really tough because on one hand, Patrick Mahomes is the meal ticket for the league, right? He's the best quarterback on the best team. So you're going to always protect the best quarterback on the best team. I mean, the NFL's doing already too much to protect the quarterbacks. It's gotten stupid. These guys are 225 pounds. And Josh Allen is like 255. He's like 6'6", 255.
He's a bull.
He's running. Oh, but wait a second. At the last second, he's going to slide, and now you can't touch him.
Right.
And if you touch him, it's a penalty.
Right.
And it's like I'm watching Mahomes, and he like runs to the sideline, and it's like he just slows down when he gets there, and it's like, oh, wait a second, he took one step out of bounds, and now he got pushed, and now he's sliding out of bounds, and here comes the flag. It's over the top, man.
It's
way too much. I mean, there was a hit in the Texans game. Was it what game was it where the two guys' helmets collided?
That was the Texans game.
And there was just Mahomes was near the collision, and they officiated the contact, but the contact wasn't on Mahomes.
It was
on each other.
Yep.
And they throw the flag there. So, my whole thing with the flags in the NFL, I just want to be honest about it. I don't get into the league's favoring one team over another team. I don't believe that. I don't believe the league's favoring one team, but I do believe that certain quarterbacks are protected more than others. Tom Brady, Drew Brees, some of these guys that would take these hits that you couldn't hit those guys, but you can hit Mahomes, you can hit Russell Wilson, or you can hit some of the lesser quarterbacks who have a little bit more physical. They're a little bit more physically dominant. It's like it's all about like how bad does the quarterback get hit and what's the impact of the hit. And it's like just because you're a bigger guy who can take a hit doesn't mean that shouldn't be a penalty. And just because you're a small guy who gets destroyed by every hit doesn't mean that every time you get hit, it should be a penalty. So they got to figure it out. They got to figure it out.
Yeah,
the one thing about The one thing about the NFL, though, I don't like, or the one thing that's just clear as day, and I don't care what anybody says to me, I don't care what it sounds like, but you're never going to change my opinion on this.
What's that?
The games are manipulated. Okay, so what I mean by that is, the team that's winning going into halftime, if they get some big break right before half that results in points, almost always it's a penalty. Almost always.
That's
like
a good point.
Don't in the NFL, they know that if the game goes to the half and it's a one-score game, X number of people are coming back. And if the game goes to the half and it's a two-score game, X number of people are coming back. And if the game goes to half and it's a three-score game, significantly less people are coming back. Right. So I just really believe that especially in these national TV games, all I'll say, I've watched the NFL now for years and years and years. All I would say to anybody is show me an example of Team A beating Team B. The Niners are beating the Rams. The Niners are up 21-7. And all of a sudden there's a pass play down the field with 10 seconds left in the first half. Okay. And the Niners are on offense. They throw a flag. It's PI.
Right.
Odds are it's going to be offensive PI.
Yeah.
It's going to be offensive PI, and you're going to get, you're not going to get that score because they don't want you to go up 28-7 because then the audience doesn't come back. So I really believe it's manipulated to maintain their audience. And all I would say to anybody is show me an example of the opposite. It does not happen. It never happens. You never see a big TV game where all of a sudden, right before the end of the half, there's a gigantic play that goes and makes the game one-sided and the second half somewhat obsolete. Never. It just never happens. And if it does happen, there's a flag.
Yeah, it's
interesting. Because they want that audience. So I really believe they manipulate the closeness of these games, I think, for the audience. I really do. Not every game, but all these big national TV games, I have almost never seen. And it's so weird that you almost come to expect it. Like, if Team A is beating Team B, Team A is going to get a penalty that slows them down. In college football, it doesn't work that way. You're watching a game. Kansas is playing Kansas State, and all of a sudden, Kansas State's up 14 at half, or 14 with like 2 minutes left, and here comes a big play for them to go up 21 points. They just go up 21 points. You see it all the time. But in the pros, the winning team never gets that extra score that makes them go up dramatically and makes everybody turn off the game. It just, for the most part, it doesn't happen. So I really believe, I'm not saying it's not on the up and up, not on the level. I'm not saying it's wrestling.
Yeah.
But I do believe it's manipulated so that huge parts of the country digest the commercials.
I just feel like the NFL has kind of a growing problem on their hands. When you start to listen to what Larry just said, or you go on to Twitter, X, and you see all the people posting highlights of, the Josh Allen fourth down play where they didn't give him the fourth down, even though it appears like he did break the plane. He crossed that line for the first down. They didn't move the chains for him, though. I think there's a problem. The NFL is starting to have that. More and more fans, more and more of their customers are starting to call into question the legitimacy of the product. And that is not good. Whether it's the refs are favorable towards Mahomes and the Chiefs, which I happen to think they are. I've seen too many calls go their way in too many big games too many times. Larry talking about the possibility of games being manipulated in one way or another. I just think the NFL is going to have to address this at some point and get the game back to a healthier place where their paying customers aren't calling into question whether or not this is a real competition going on or if they're following some kind of script. Like, it's a problem. I think it's a growing problem for the NFL, even though they are a juggernaut and they are America's most popular sport. There's no argument there. You can't have people online on a daily basis saying the NFL is starting to remind me of WWE. The NFL is rigged. Like, That's a problem. I'm telling you, man. And they're going to have to find a way to get back in the good graces and get that trust back with their customers. Now, not all customers, Larry, but there are enough people out there calling bullshit on some of these calls and some of these plays that I think there is becoming a problem with trust with the fans and the league.
The Chiefs are getting tough to, I mean, between the Taylor Swift thing,
I've had it, Krugs. Yeah, I've had it. I'll go deed on the whole thing. Yeah,
she's just so tired, and then Caitlin Clark in the booth with her, and it's like,
what are we doing? Right, like what are we doing here?
It's some they had this fake hug. I mean, they're probably not even friends.
I doubt they are. They probably never met each other. Yeah.
So I mean, they're just it's like, hey, let's break the internet together, and it's exactly. So it's like that whole thing is ridiculous. The Hallmark put together a Chiefs Christmas special this year. Did you see that?
Cut the crap. I saw that. I didn't watch it, but I saw it. I'm like, this is getting obnoxious. I don't want to watch it.
I had to watch it for like 10 minutes because it was just so cheap. It was so campy and cheesy. And,
come on.
It was the Hallmark Channel. I mean, if you know the Hallmark Channel, I mean, they have there's literally all year long on the Hallmark Channel, they play Christmas special. Christmas,
right.
These really attractive guy, really attractive girl.
Yeah.
Somehow they meet up on some Christmas special, and
it's very romantic.
It's very romantic, and he's got a 5 o'clock shadow, and she's hot, and everybody's just
everyone's happy.
Everybody's happy.
Yeah.
That all being said, let's talk Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I like Philadelphia. Now,
I do too, man. I
don't like Philly fans, and I don't understand. It's almost to the point where I almost bet this game, because I want to be. I just hate Philly's fans. Philly's fans are they're the rudest, crudest, ugliest people there are. I mean, they're just so bad in every way. They're so low IQ bad. It's not like there's some genius fan base. They're a bunch of idiots.
Yeah.
They're just a bunch of idiots. And I'm watching the footage last week of this Commanders fan. He's walking out. You see that with the yellow hat, and they pulled the yellow hat off the guy.
Brutal.
And the guy was gonna fight. Guy was like, "Give me my hat," and then you could see his buddy was like, "Hey man, we're gonna get our asses kicked.
Yeah,
let's just keep walking." And it's like, you know what? And then people in the comments were like, that's what happens when you wear opposing colors in Philly. And so,
I know. Come on, man.
Then
let's grow up
Philly,
a little. Yeah,
you and your fans suck. And seriously, you're a bunch of low grade losers, and that's really the truth. I mean, it's a low grade fan base. It's a low grade city that has a New York inferiority complex.
Ooh, that's true, man.
They're angry as fuck.
Yep.
They're frustrated as hell.
Yep.
They're living in a rat-infested nightmare of a place. And, I mean, they're angry. They're across the bridge from Camden, New Jersey, which is a really rough area. Philly's rough, and the people are rough. And it's like 2% of them have charm, and 98% of them are just assholes.
I agree.
It's just like I want to root against Philadelphia because of their asshole fans, but you know what? I've looked at this game a lot, and Philly's just better. Philly's better. They're going to run the ball better. Their offensive line's better. Philly is better, except for Hurts and Sirianni. I mean, Kansas City, Reed's better than Sirianni. Mahomes is obviously better than Hurts. Other than that, Philly's better. Philly's a better team than the team that got to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Their defense is way better.
And
they have Vic Fangio. They have Saquon Barkley on offense, but defensively, they've got a much better defensive coordinator, much better defensive scheme, better defensive players. Jalen Carter's, he's now having an epic year. Zach Bond has come out of nowhere. He's a Pro Bowl, All-Pro inside linebacker. They added Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. I mean, Philly's really good. I like Philly. I think Philly's going to run the ball. I think Philly's going to win the game.
I think that's the recipe right there. You just said it. Saquon Barkley, I think, holds the keys in his hand because I always go back to I think it was 2018 or 2019, the AFC Championship when the Patriots went into Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs in overtime. And that game, I think Bill Belichick kind of gave everybody a blueprint as to how to beat the Kansas City Chiefs at their own game, which is as follows. The recipe involves running the football, moving the chains on the ground, keep that clock running, keep Mahomes off the field. And the Philadelphia Eagles are built to execute that kind of game plan because Saquon Barkley, I think, is a difference maker. And I like Jalen Hurts. I don't think he's the quarterback that Patrick Mahomes is, but I like the competitor that Jalen Hurts is. And we watched, I enjoyed him at Alabama, then at Oklahoma. And even as a pro with Philly, I just like his will to compete and his will to win. Now, I hate Sirianni, dude. I find Sirianni very objectionable in a variety of ways. And like Larry said, their fans are the worst. I mean, they pride themselves on being scumbags. They really do. Like, they take pride in that. Like,
I mean, we've seen too many video footage, too much footage of guys putting fingers in their mouth and vomiting on people next to them. And
exactly.
These people are vile. They're absolutely vile. Nana, well, first of all, Joe Muzzy says, better than Spags? I'm not saying the Fangio's better than Spags. By the way, I love the under. I love the under in the Super Bowl because I think.
What is it, Larry? What's the under?
Well, I think it's like, I don't know the exact number. I think it might be 43, but I like it under just because I think Kansas City's defense will slow down Philadelphia's offense. And I think Philadelphia's defense is going to slow down Kansas City's offense. I like both defenses to kind of rule the day. This one in the chat cracked me up. Nana Asadu Cook-Rabor says, damn, Krug, I'm a Niner fan from Philly. What a scathing indictment of my city. What, mean rat-infested shithole?
Yeah.
You didn't like rat-infested... You didn't like rat-infested shithole?
Was that too much?
Did that come out the wrong way?
Sorry. Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't have. No. What the hell? I meant every minute of it, every second of it. Hello, world, Larry. You offended people.
Okay.
As opposed to offending animals.
There you go. Exactly.
Or buildings or non-humans. No, but I like Philly. I like Philly. Philly's got a big offensive line. They're going to run the ball.
Yeah.
I think people don't realize how hard it is to win 3 in a row.
Oh, dude. Well, it's never been done. I mean, that's how hard it is.
I think it's we're gonna realize it's not going to happen. We know Philly's going to get the win.
I hope you're
right. It's just simple as that.
All right,
Philly's the better team. Philly's the better team. Dusty Gold says Larry's having fun. Larry's so fun crapping on Philly. Yeah, I mean Philly. Seriously, the Sixers are a joke. The Eagles are a joke. Sixers.
Shout out to
Flyers.
Yeah, Joel Embiid. 400 games of his career. Over 400 games he's missed in his career. Shout out Joel Embiid.
Bryce Harper. That's a clown question, bro.
Right. Yeah.
I did have a good time in Philly. I can tell you my Philly story. We went to Army Navy at the link. It was me and Pecan.
Nice.
And Covey.
Oh yeah.
And these are guys that Paulie and I both know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so USAA was the sponsor, right? And USAA was the greatest sponsor of all time. And instead of, they knew that people would have they would have things that they would need, and so they gave everybody who was covering this for Army Navy, who was flying out to Philly, they gave us all like a USAA credit card where we could just, anything we needed, our incidentals, food, whatever, we could put it on the USA credit card.
Beautiful.
Which is, that's the best way, because otherwise you gotta put it, expense it and
receipts,
7 receipts. 7 weeks later, you get a check and your wife's pissed because you spent all this money. You're on the road.
Right, totally.
This way, you get whatever you want. Anyway, but they were taking us out to dinner at this really top-notch Brazilian steakhouse.
Ooh, nice.
In Philly, right? Have you ever been to a Brazilian steakhouse?
I have. They're amazing.
Where they bring like the meat on the heated skewers.
It's insane.
And they just slide it off the, you know, I mean, it's just awesome. It's an amazing thing. Pecan, who, God bless him. I love this guy. I love this guy. But
me too.
So we're in our room. We're doing a little pre-partying. Me and Covey and Pecan.
Yep.
And we're throwing some beers back. You know, there's billowing smoke. There's all kinds of things going on.
Yeah.
And we're listening to music and we're like, hey, we got to get ready to go to our dinner. We're going to dinner with all the good people from USAA. And we're going to the Brazilian steakhouse. We're like, oh, I'm fired up. Covey's fired up. So we're up pre-partying. We agree. We'll go back to our room, change, and we'll meet in the lobby. So now go down, change, get in the lobby. Here comes Covey. There's no Pecan.
Oh,
no
boy.
Pecan.
Yeah, where is he? Where's Pecan?
Where's Pecan? Where's Pecan?
Yeah.
You know what? He doesn't want to go. I go, he doesn't want to go. It's a free dinner at the Brazilian steakhouse.
Yeah, come on, man.
This is going to be an incredible dinner, and it's free.
Yeah.
Instead he wanted to go to Chili's so he could get the awesome blossom or something like that.
The onion blossom thing? Yeah,
the onion blossom, which is some deep fried cheap onion bunch of. I mean, come on,
you can get that anywhere.
You're going to Chili's. And so I remember we gave him so much shit about that the rest of the time. I mean, I literally called him Chili the rest of the I'm like, Chili, let's go, Chili.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you passed up a 5-star dinner to go to Chili's by yourself for the awesome blossom.
Come on, Patrick. Tighten it up, man. Come on, Pat.
By the way, Amy and Morris, I live 20 minutes outside of Philly. The fans are horrible. Thank you.
Yep.
And Wood Pit 420. Chili's is awful.
There you go. We've settled that dispute. Yes.
James Foster. I remember Pecan. Yeah, there you go.
He's the
yes.
Yeah.
We got James here. As in Murph, Mac, and Pecan, and then Kate T. Scott.
No doubt.
Who now also is
a Philly resident.
Philly.
Yeah.
She's a Philly resident.
That's right.
I wonder how she'd feel about me calling it a rat infested shithole.
Well, she's becoming a real Philly person. Last time I talked to Kate, I was complaining about Sirianni. I'm like, Kate, I hate this guy. I hate his face. I hate the way he mean mugs the camera. And then Kate said something like, well, if you live in Philly, he kind of seduces you. He wears you down. And that's typical. Like the most polarizing guys are always loved in their hometown. So Kate even seeing the good side of Sirianni, whereas Paulie Mack, myself, I don't see any good side of Sirianni. I find him completely objectionable in every way. I really do.
He's not my
clown.
Favorite guy.
He's a clown.
He's a total clown.
Yeah.
He's a total clown. Dusty Gold says Larry's drunken stories again.
Hey, listen,
I do have one more drunken story that I'd like to tell. Since the Super Bowl is in New Orleans, I do have a lot of experience in New Orleans. How many times have you been to New Orleans? Now, Paulie, for people who don't know Paulie, there's a lot of people that know Paulie from KMBR and from the radio, and that's how Paulie and I know each other, of course. But there's also people that are just discovering you now, Paulie, on YouTube. Like this is, and don't know. But Paulie, because he's been on the morning show, has been on the road to a lot of events. Lot of you've spent a lot of time traveling around to some great freaking sporting events, man.
All kinds of stuff.
I'm partially jealous. But how many times have you been to New Orleans? You've probably been to New Orleans at least a dozen times.
I've been in New Orleans probably 10 times in my life. Yeah, and it's a great fit. Every single time I go down there, I have a blast. It is so much fun. I mean, the food, the culture, the atmosphere, the partying. It's a great. It's like probably the ideal town for the Super Bowl. To be honest, it's probably the best. Yeah.
It's the best drinking town in America.
Oh God, yes. Easily.
I mean, it is the best drinking town in America. It's just, it's great drinking weather, and especially in the, not this time of year, but most of the time of year, it's perfect drinking weather. It's humid, it's hot. It's incredible. I've been there in the summertime, and it's amazing. I've been there for the Super Bowl. It's amazing. But I'll give you my, first of all, last time I went, Damon, Bruce, and I went to Cochon and had fried alligator.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, it was so good. It was so
It's like
amazing.
chicken meat, right? Honestly, it's like white meat, right? Yeah.
It's like, it was like chicken. It was like deep.
Yeah.
It was like a really kind of a gamey chicken, but it was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my two New Orleans stories from the last time I was there. I'm drinking in Pat O'Brien's with Townsend. Chris Townsend. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's like 3:00 in the morning. We're in the piano bar.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, a fight starts like behind me, and it's literally just me, two people behind us in the wall, and these two people behind us start fighting.
Right.
So I grab one of them. Townsend grabs one of them. Pull them off.
Break it up. Yeah.
The lights come on because these guys one guy threw another guy over a table. Some glass got broken. Lights come on. The piano stops playing. The cops roll in.
Yeah.
I look at the guy. It's a 60-something-year-old guy fighting what looks to be like a 30-year-old guy.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay?
Only in New Orleans. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, only in New Orleans.
Right.
So the cops come, and they're like, hey, what's going on here? And then the younger guy goes to the older guy, and the younger guy's bleeding from the eye and bleeding from the mouth, right?
Okay.
And he goes, this is classic New Orleans.
Yeah.
He goes, why did you have to hit me that hard? Wait a second. Wait for it. Dad?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, my God.
Why did you have to hit me that hard, Dad?
That's pretty good. That's pretty good,
now,
Yeah.
Townsend and I, we are doubled over laughing, right? We are just laughing so hard. The cop goes to the dad, and he goes, what do you want me to do with him? And he's got the kid in cuffs. And he's got the dad right there. He goes, what do you want me to do with him?
Yeah.
And it was literally like the E.F. Hutton commercial where everybody goes,
just listened. Yeah.
Right.
It's a good question.
It was incredible. It was incredible. He goes, so and the guy waited. The guy waited a good 3 seconds. He goes, what do you want us to do with him? And everybody's like, and he goes, arrest his fucking ass.
Wow, what a story. Jesus Christ. And did they cuff the kid?
They arrested the kid and dragged him out. His dad got him arrested after his dad got into a fist fight with his kid.
And that is some good New Orleans commentary, man.
I mean, Townsend and I are like, we stood up. I'm like, dude, that is the white trashiest thing I think I've ever seen.
Oh yeah,
that is just epic. That is incredible.
Yeah, that's a good one, man.
So this same night, this is like 2:45 in the morning. Okay. Now it's like 4:45, right? And we're going in and out of places. We're dancing. We're taking shots. We're drinking. We meet up with some other people. Now all of a sudden, I look around. I can't find anybody. Everybody's gone.
Right.
I don't know where everybody is.
Right.
I can't find Townsend. I can't find anybody. It's 4:45 in the morning. I have like $25 on me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm on the air at 11 a.m. So I'm like, maybe I should head back to the hotel.
Yeah, get a couple hours.
So I'm like, it's time to hit the Hampton Inn. All right.
Yeah.
So I see one of those bicyclists, those bike cabs.
Yeah.
Those guys.
Yeah,
they have a little back seat and they just bike you everywhere, which I actually kind of like because I like being able to, I don't want to get in a car with somebody. I want to be able to, if this guy's a maniac, I want to be able to jump out, right?
Okay.
I'm getting a cab. I'm getting transportation in New Orleans by myself at like 4:45.
A little dicey. That's dicey. Yeah.
So I go up to the guy and he goes, "Hey man, you need a ride?" I go, "Man, I'm staying at the Hampton Inn." He's like, "Yeah, man, that's about 17 blocks from here." I go, "Dude, I only got $25. Yeah. I got $25. It's yours. I need a ride home. Can you do it? You tell me."
Deal. Yeah.
Let's work this out. So he goes, yeah, I can do that. He goes, And so the guy was a character, right? He's playing New Orleans jazz. He's asking me what kind of music he wants. So he's got music going. So as he's biking, we go one block. He stops. I go, what? Why are you stopping? He's like, have you had a beignet?
Oh, Jesus.
And I said, a beignet, for those who don't know, is kind of like it's just a square, great donut.
Yeah.
Right? An incredible donut.
It's very good. Very tasty.
It's a very, very good donut. And it's like a New Orleans specialty.
Totally.
So I told him, I go, man, I haven't had a beignet. He's like, dude, you got to go to Cafe Demond or something.
Demond, yeah, that's the big one. Yeah.
Demond. And you got to, we'll get you a beignet. And I'm like, dude, I only have $25 on me. Yeah. He's like, oh, no, I'll cover you.
Nice. You got the bike guy covering. Yeah, wow.
Now I'm nervous. Now I'm really nervous. I'm like, why is this guy so intent on me?
Beignets? Yeah,
why is he buying me beignets?
Yeah.
So he stops at this place. He runs in.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there. As I'm sitting there, he's in there for like 15 minutes. It starts to rain.
Oh, dude.
It starts to rain.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So now it's raining. And I don't really care because, it's 4:30 in the morning. You know what I mean? What do I care? I'm in New Orleans. It was still pretty warm, even though it was this time of year, but it was still decent. It wasn't freezing out or anything.
Yeah.
So the guy comes back. He hands me the bag. Paulie, I swear to you, just a regular paper bag, white paper bag.
Right.
You can see.
Oh, the grease and stuff.
You could see that the entire bag is like if it's filled with powdered sugar.
Okay.
So much powdered sugar in there. It was like it had to be almost like 7-8 inches of powdered sugar.
Okay.
And I go, these there. He's like, they're in the bottom. So I reach into the bottom and there's 2 beignets in there and they're just covered with so much powdered sugar.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, these look good. Good. And then he's like, man, you got to eat it now. And I'm like, now? You want me to eat it now? He's like, yeah, you got to eat it now.
Yeah.
So he's biking and I'm eating the beignet, right? And it's raining. Okay. So now it was great. It was an incredible powdered sugar donut.
Right.
Essentially. Now we're pulling into the Hampton Inn, right?
Yeah.
And and by the way, I give him the $25 and he's like, I got this, I got the ride and the beignet for the 25.
Yeah,
so I'm
bad.
like, oh, this is
a package deal.
It's a good deal. So now I'm get to the hotel and there's a flight crew, like a pilot and a couple stewardesses walking out to the airport. Like they obviously stayed at the Hampton Inn.
Yeah.
And as I'm walking in, they go like this. They look at me. They give me the double take.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, why are they double taking on me? And they're like, they're laughing. They're like, look at me, double take, and they're laughing.
Yeah.
So I can't see myself, so I have no idea what they're laughing at. So then I walk into the lobby of the hotel, and the guy in the lobby looks at me, double takes, and is laughing.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, what the heck is going on here?
I like
what is going on? But it's still 4:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm still pretty trashed. Yeah. So I'm not necessarily thinking anything of it.
Yeah.
I get in the elevator, and the one of the maids gets on the elevator. She looks at me and she double takes. Now I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? So I get into my hotel room. I walk into the bathroom. Dude, Paulie, it looked like a powdered sugar bomb went off on my face.
Oh, nice.
And basically from my mouth all the way on my face.
Wow.
In my hair.
Okay.
My jacket.
Oh, I like
because the rain, the wind, the powdered sugar
blowing it all over you. Yeah.
It's just I just had I was putting it in my mouth. It was everywhere. I had white in my hair, my jacket, my face. It just looked like a powdered sugar bomb went off with the epicenter being my nose.
Or they thought you were like Al Pacino at the end of Scarface. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like with a pile of blow or something.
Yeah. I don't know what they thought. They so the pilot who walked by me was like, "Hey, fun night?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it was a great night." He's like, "I bet."
Yeah, you have no idea. Yeah,
You know, it's like I know we thought I was on some coke bender.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly.
But the beignet story.
All
Anyway,
right.
I love New Orleans. It's great. It's an incredible
Yeah.
place to be. I
Yeah,
wish I was going. I wanted the Niners to next year. I believe the Super Bowl's here. It's at Levi's.
Yeah, I think you're right. Actually, yeah, and then it's headed to Vegas. Yeah, they're going to get one too. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll finish up here, but we're an hour and 9 minutes in. The stream was titled "How Should the Niners Attack the Offseason?" I already said that I'd like to see Brock Purdy's contract done by free agency.
I like that too.
I would love to see a significant receiver coming in. Garrett Wilson is rumored to be traded from the Jets. I would trade for Garrett Wilson if I could. Okay. If I can't trade for Garrett Wilson, I would try to sign a T. Higgins. But if I'm the 49ers, I need to find a big-time receiver. Even though it's not my first, second, or third need on paper, because of the scenarios we talked about earlier, I think they need that receiver. I think they absolutely need to have that receiver. And Garrett Wilson or T. Higgins would be amazing. I really think those are those two guys are the two guys I would want to focus on. Either, Higgins as the free agent or Wilson as a trade candidate. But they got to get that receiver. I think that's a major part of this offseason.
Okay, and I'm going to say that I would like to see the Niners pull a good running back out of this draft class, because I just think they're at a kind of a precarious spot with Eli Mitchell, his health, Jordan Mason. I like what I saw from Mason when he was on the field, but most importantly, Christian McCaffrey kind of being a question mark and an unknown in terms of like what version of CMC are we going to get. We might get the great version of CMC for a few weeks and then he gets hurt again. Like, we just don't know. So all of that being considered, and what you said, Larry, there are so many good running backs in this draft. Let's grab one of those guys. It might pay off down the road, just having a little bit more depth at that position.
One last thought on the way out, too.
Okay.
We are about, 3 or 4 days away from the NBA trade deadline. I'm not sure why the NBA made the trade deadline same as Super Bowl week. That seems like really kind of a bad planning on their part. But it is Super Bowl week, and it is the NBA trade deadline coming up this week. Golden State, I just watched them last night.
Me too.
Kerr looks just like depressed.
Yeah,
the Warriors have a terrible vibe right now. They just really do. They got off to a 12-3 start. They look great, and now it's like they're talking about trading for Zach LaVine, and
Jimmy Butler's name comes up. Yeah,
Jimmy Butler. I mean, the deal that I'm looking at, this deal, there's a rumored deal that would bring the Warriors Zach LaVine, and the Warriors would only have to trade Dennis Schroeder, Gary Payton, Buddy Hield, Kyle Anderson, Kevon Looney, and unprotected 2025 first.
For LaVine. That's a lot.
LaVine, Taylor Horton Tucker, and Julian Phillips. That's one deal that I saw. Okay. But, I mean, the Warriors clearly are talking to the Bulls about LaVine, but they don't want to trade Kuminga, and they don't want to trade Wiggins.
They don't want to trade Wiggins, no.
Yeah. No. So, I mean, it's interesting. I'll be interested to see what they can trade for at the trade deadline. But it's just like, I don't know, the Warrior vibe this year. It's like,
you're right. It's off. It's off, man.
It's weird. I mean, Murph asked me on opening night. I did a little hit, and he's like, "Hey, how many games do you think they're going to win?" And I'm like, 38, 39, something like that. And he's like, "Oh, you don't think they're going to have a very good year?" And I'm like, "I really don't." Then they got off to the 12-3 start, and I kind of was hedging. I was like, "Well, maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. Maybe they're really better than this." And now they're sub 500 again.
That's kind of who they are. And it's kind of frustrating too, Larry, because 2 games, the game prior to last night, the Warriors played their guts out and they beat OKC, which arguably might be the best team in the NBA, certainly the Western Conference. So they're inconsistent. Like the night they beat Oklahoma City, Draymond Green, Kuminga, not on the floor, but everybody elevated. Kevon Looney had 18 points. He had 4 blocks. Wiggins had a monster game. Curry had a nice night with 21, some big threes in the fourth quarter. But my question is, why don't we see that on a consistent basis? That team that beat Oklahoma City on Wednesday night. Where is that team? Like, where were they last night? There's just too much inconsistency. I do think they have to make a move to if they have their sights set on the playoffs, because I'm not so sure they can do it with what they have. And I think Draymond Green, him coming back is going to help a lot. I think that'll help Steph Curry scoring improve, obviously, but I just don't. You're right. The vibe has been off all year. It's been weird. And I think that some kind of change has to come. I'd like to see them hold on to Kevon Looney if possible, but you might have to get rid of him or give him up in order to bring something in. So it's like, let me ask you this, Larry, do you think the Warriors are a playoff team as currently constructed, or do you think they need additional pieces or a piece?
I don't. Well, no, I would say they're not a playoff team.
Yeah.
I think they're going to win 38 games. I think playoffs are probably like a 44 win thing, maybe. Something like 40,
that's
45.
about right.
Yeah. So I would say they're not going to make the playoffs. And one last one. Let's finish on the Giants. Okay. Just a quick thought on the Giants.
Yeah.
I don't understand the Giants' game plan at all.
No one does. Nobody does.
I'm not. Yeah. They're in my opinion, they are a first baseman like Pete Alonso away from being a major contender for the wild card. If they got a guy like Alonso,
I know
you've got you're good behind the plate. You're good at third with Chapman. You're good at short. You just signed a brand new shortstop. You're good at second. I think they got a number of options that can play second base. If they had a big time first baseman like Pete Alonso, I think he would give them that big bopper. He would drive people's. I think the attendance would be better. I think that he's a fun player to watch. Their outfield's not the worst. I mean, they could probably use another starter, but I mean, it's like, you know what? They're not that bad of a team if they had one more big bat like Alonso, and yet, no. They don't. They're showing no interest at all.
Unbelievable. I know.
Brock Purdy's like, Brock Purdy. Buster Posey's like, hey, you know what?
I like this team. I like this
team. I like this team. Well, you know what, Buster?
Yeah.
Buster right now reminds me of Billy Beane when Billy Beane got ownership of the A's. It was like Billy Beane was absolutely had this passion to win. Oh, we got to win. We got to win. We got to win. And then they said, you know what, Billy, we don't want to win. We want to lose and make a little profit. So they finally said, well, he said, I don't want that. I want to win. They said, well, how about we'll give you a piece of the pie? And then they gave him a piece of the pie. And then he's like, fuck, I'm content to lose. You know what I mean? Right. So it's like they bought off they bought off Billy. Well, the Giants have done the same with Buster. I mean, Buster is this proud Giant.
I know.
It's like they brought him in, and now it's like, I don't know what to say. It's like, Buster, you're a gigantic failure. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You signed Verlander. That's it.
Right. I know.
You signed a shortstop in Verlander. You're not. You're worse than you were last year. You're not better. You're worse, and you're acting like you like this team. What I mean.
I know
you should be held to that. If you like this team and they suck, then you should be fucking fired. I mean, I don't understand. I love Buster Posey, but stop gaslighting us. I mean, what the hell? This team's fucking awful.
It's disappointing, man. It really is, because my frustration has been watching the Giants go after these blue chip free agents for the past several seasons. I mean, I remember the Bryce Harper. They made a run at Bryce Harper. They made a run at Aaron Judge. They've been unable to sign any of these guys. And so I thought, okay, having Buster Posey as your spokesman, as a guy that can talk to an Aaron Judge, as a guy that can talk to some of these players and say, like, hey, here's 10 reasons why you need to be in San Francisco. Take it from me. I'm a guy who won 3 World Series there. Like, he can speak that common language between players. But like you said, Larry, like, where's the move on Alonso? Like, that might be the final piece they need, a guy who's guaranteed to 25 to 30 bombs, 90 to 100 RBIs. Like, the Giants need that so desperately. But instead, Buster's saying, no, forget about Alonso, because I'm bringing back Lamont Wade and Yastrzemski. And I'm saying, like, well, we've seen that the past 5 seasons. It's the same thing over and over. They're serving it up again. So I got to admit, I'm very disappointed. I thought having Buster Posey in this role would improve the likelihood of landing these big names, but apparently it's not the case. Like it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. So I'm disappointed. I really am. Going into this year, I'm already disappointed. I expected more, and I can't for the life of me imagine why they won't make a move with Pete Alonso. He's sitting right there. He's just sitting there. And the Giants have the money. Crooks, they have the money to spend. Help us out. I mean, you want your fan base to be excited and engaged. You can't serve up the same plate of rewarmed eggs and hash browns and expect me to get excited about it. I'm not.
It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I get it. I mean, and then this latest trade, they trade Taylor Rogers because he's making, whatever, $14 million. It's like, once again, this is the Giants. Sign guys that aren't worth the money to contracts that are bloated.
Right.
I mean, Farhan had to be maybe the worst fucking GM of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
He was terrible. He was terrible.
He ran their farm system, and their farm system is still lowly rated. He made a shit ton of meaningless trades. Almost every one of his signings has had the escape hatch, pulled on it, because it's like, they're all bad signings. So he's like, he signed DeSclafani. He signed all these. I mean, then he wanted to give these guys away.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, he's just a terrible general manager. I mean, just one of the worst general managers of all time.
Yeah.
And it's just shocking. But I don't know. I don't know what to say about the Giants because I want to believe in Buster, but I don't.
Same here.
This offseason has been a tire fire.
Disappointing.
And it's like you can have all of the media in your pocket. The Giants have an army of yes men. Between their announcers who are constantly like trying to tell everybody that the team's good, or even their media. I mean, have you ever seen a less objective group of people than the Giants media?
No.
I mean, the Giants media act butthurt if you criticize the Giants.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a rich franchise that has nothing but money, and if you criticize them, the people that cover them, are going to literally try to fight you. Yeah. I mean, it's pathetic. I mean,
I'm with you, brother. I'm with you, brother.
Anyway, that's going to do it for us. Have a great Saturday, everybody. Paulie, what do you got planned today? Any bad weather? Not a great weather day. It's going to rain all weekend here in Northern California. It's February the 1st.
I'm firing up the Netflix, and I'm gonna get the fireplace going. Krugs might have a couple of drinks, and it's gonna be like a weekend of serious relaxation, especially if this rain keeps up because there's nothing to do outside. So I'm talking sweatpants, fireplace, Netflix. That's my recipe for success, Krugs.
Yep, I hear you. I'm going. My wife requested chili tonight.
Oh,
she wants me to make chili, so I'll be making my famous chili.
Attaboy.
And that's a very involved process. Lots and lots of ingredients.
Yeah.
So man, I'll be making the chili. I'll watch a little Senior Bowl because you know me, I like to watch the College All-Star game.
A few snaps. Oh yeah.
Little Senior Bowl coming my way this afternoon. Other than that, man. Just try to
maxing and relaxing, baby.
Seriously, I might just have to chill out. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to Paulie. Thanks to all of you guys. Chris. Thanks to Better. Thanks to Pig in a Pickle. Thanks to our good friends at Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. For Paulie, I'm Larry. Have a great night or a great day, everybody. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of.